What's going on, fellow alchemists? Welcome to Quasi Astrology. Today we are finishing this series of Lilith through the signs. And for those of you who don't know what Lilith represents or want to know what Lilith is about in your chart, I will pop the introductory series somewhere at the top of the screen. But this one is all about Lilith in Pisces. My favorite placement for Lilith, just my personal opinion. I don't have this placement, but I really enjoy people who do. So let's get into it. So Lilith in Pisces. Well, this is quite a hard and tricky one to talk about because Pisces is all about the deeply hidden part of the zodiac chart. This sign rules over the 12th house, and the 12th house is all about karmatic history. This is all about the hidden things. This is not like the hidden things in the 8th house, because that can come to the surface quite easily. But this is the hidden things in the subconscious. Pisces rules over the subconscious, the collective consciousness. In Aquarius, we see the journey back into the collective consciousness. But in Pisces, we are engulfed into the deep seas. This is Mariana's Trench. This is the deepest part of the ocean. This is where there is no light. The sun can't make it to the bottom of this part of the ocean. It's too deep. And so all of the beings and all of these sentient beings that exist down here emit their own light. And through that process, there's this kind of understanding that everything might not seem exactly as what you might think it is. I might have not put that in the exact words I wanted to put it in, but I hope you get the idea. So things are different down here. Things are very hard to understand. They're not as compact. They're quite literally still in the sphere of the filter between abstract thought and the collective consciousness and our everyday consciousness. So it's very hard to interpret energies in the 12th house and really try and understand what they're doing in there. So what happens when Lilith, which is our deep primordial feminine emancipation or our enslavement in this world, comes into the sign that is all about evolution? It's all about our ability to progress to the higher planes. That's why Pisces is represented by two fish looking in two different directions. One represents involution and the other one represents evolution. If you fail, you go back into the karmatic scale and cycle and go through the repetitive the repetitive progress of reincarnation, or where you just keep coming back and back and back until you finally deal with what it is you need to deal with, which in many cases is about removing the heavy lead based style of karmas that engulf you and keep you here on the physical plane. When you have Lilith sitting in Pisces, a lot of the time, and I find people who have this position are quite amazing to be around because they're so gifted. Anything that's in the 12th house will give you a gift, but always remember that with the gift comes a huge price. The gift is amazing. The gift could change the world in many cases if you were brave enough to work with it, but there's a huge price that sits with us. So when Lilith is in Pisces, you can be very good at mediumship, the shaman. This is the real mark of the shaman in many ways, because it's about that primordial feminine energy sitting in the sign of the collective consciousness, pulling all of the influences out of the collective consciousness and embracing it and filtering it into the physical world, from the ethereal world into the physical. So with Lilith and Pisces, a lot of the time you could be very psychic. Your abilities would be outstanding here, but they could be very, very dark. A lot of things that are sitting in the 12th house can give you psychic abilities, but when you have Lilith in particular, it could be very, very dark, because if you are not working productively with this octave, or with the octaves that Lilith presents, which are two extremes, which is either good or bad, there's no in between, you could have a very bad time with this. But the thing is, because it's so hidden and it's so dark, it can be quite hard to work with the energies in the 12th house, because you don't necessarily know how to directly get in contact with that. And a lot of the time they pop up in your dreams, and a lot of the time they pop up when you're otherwise not expecting it. And it's so subtle it's so subtle, but it's also quite impactful that you only see the results of it later down the line. So with Lilith in Pisces, again, it is a amazing position for people if they can manage to work with this energy. But if it's not, you could get lost. because it's Pisces, and Pisces is about that subconscious and the collective consciousness of the whole cosmos. You could find it very hard to find yourself or to find identity here. And with Lilith whispering, you know, because she whispers from this part of it, of your chart, she whispers in the darkness, she whispers in the subconscious to you. It can be quite hard for you to really collect yourself and to be a singularized individual in this collective deep pool, this deep sea, this deep depth that Pisces brings into your chart, and with this influence of Lilith sitting inside of it. So it can be very hard to work with Lilith here, and it can be very hard to cope in the society, in this physical plane, because you keep getting pulled. Anything that sits in the 12th house, kind of, especially if it's one of these personal placements or personal planets or nodes, it can be really hard to deal with, because it kind of pulls you and it whispers to you, and you're trying to find it, you're trying to interact with it, you're trying to get to know that part of you, but it's quite hard to get to know. But if you manage to do that, there is a gift there. But again, there's the challenge, there's the thing that's taken back. Something is given, something must be something is rewarded to you, so something must be taken back. And so with Lilith here, you might always find yourself in a situation where it's quite hard to deal with. It's you try to escape, you try to find a different parallel to what you're currently being presented in this physical plane, and you're trying to find Lilith. You're trying to work with that physical. You're trying to work with the physical plane to try and bypass its limitations and step into the ethereal world, where Lilith will help you emancipate yourself, in particular in the sign of emancipation. So just keep that in mind, that you have a very, very, very powerful role with Lilith and Pisces, regardless of if it's in the 12th house or what house it's sitting in. If your true Lilith is sitting in Pisces, it can be very hard to deal with. Very hard to deal with if it is not in one of the more personal, direct houses, like the 1st or the 2nd or the 5th. It can be quite hard, or even your 10th house, it can be quite hard to deal with. So fellow alchemists, that finally brings an end to Lilith through the sign series. I hope you really enjoyed it. Please don't forget to check out all the other videos if you haven't, and if you're interested in any of the other placements of Lilith in their signs. Also, don't forget to subscribe, drop a like below, drop a comment down below. I'm really eager to understand and get an opinion of people who have Lilith in Pisces. Until next time, take good care of yourself. I'll see you then.